Hello and welcome to Fishing for Needles Sock Challenges in the age of AI. My name is Mick Leach. I'm Field CISO here at Abnormal AI. Little bit about me. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, so scouts out for anybody who knows what that means. I've been doing IT things since upgrading Windows 3.11 to Windows 95. Yes, all 13 floppy disks worth, for those of you that remember this joy. And I've been doing information security things since the iPhone was introduced, not the recent one, the original iPhone. And I've been leading security operations teams since CryptoLocker started the ransomware craze we all know and love today. You see, saying it this way makes me feel a little less old than giving actual dates, but suffice it to say, I've been around the industry for a minute or two. Have had the tremendous privilege of leading security operations centers at two Fortune 500 companies, primarily in the insurance and financial services industries. Big fan of SANS and GIAC and Gartner. Currently hold 7 GIAC certifications. And when I'm not discussing operational metrics or digging through logs, you can probably find me on a soccer field somewhere coaching one of my children. Have a big family, as you can see by the picture here. So enough about me. Let's dig into the challenges that we face in the Security Operations Center. So, when I love this because when I try to describe what I do, in what people think I do working in a security operations center and leading these organizations. They think we're on the front lines defending, the castle against the battles, the forces of evil. And while that's absolutely true, it never quite looks the way that people would expect it to look. The way it feels is more like digging through a haystack looking for a needle. And I'll be honest, this was never more evident to me than the difference between career day at my kid's school and take your kid to work day. So years ago now, went to my kid's school, did a career day, told him what I did, how we defended our companies, and I hunted for bad guys, hackers. And my kids' friends thought their dad was the coolest human being on the planet. I'm not arguing. And yet, then when we had career day, or we had take your kid to work day. I brought my kids to my office. They were profoundly unimpressed when they watched me type on a computer most of the day, occasionally having a meeting, and they were like, is it? Is this all you really do?" I'm like, "Yes, it's more exciting when you understand what's happening here on the screen, but yeah, that's it." So the reality is SOC teams face extraordinary challenges. I mean, if you just look at the CIS controls version 8 one's out now, but it's still basically the same 18 controls that we're looking for, whether it's doing inventory and data security and access management and networks and malware defenses. There's so much that security operations centers are responsible for. It can feel a little overwhelming. And unfortunately, we don't have time to unpack all of these challenges today, but we will spend a little bit of time digging into control number 9, email and web protections. So let's take a peek at that. Now, when we talk about the protection challenges for email, what are they? Well, first, email is the largest and the most vulnerable attack surface that every company has. Why? Well, because every company has email. It's still how business is done today. And so that's important to understand. The other aspect is it reaches directly into the weakest link that we all have, which are our well-meaning users. And I hear folks, security folks in particular get frustrated and say users are dumb, and that's not true. Okay, there might be outliers to every example, but on the whole, they're just well-meaning, right? If you hired someone to come into your finance team and handle paying invoices, when they get an invoice that looks like it comes from the right place, it's in the, same structures they're used to seeing, the values look about par with what they're used to paying out, they're going to pay it. They haven't been hurt like we have. They're in security, and so maybe they're just not as naturally biased towards suspicion as we all are, which plays to our strengths, I think. But on the whole, they're going to just simply pay those kinds of bills, and that's what their job is. And so we've got to do a better job protecting them. The other thing that we're seeing is attack volumes continue to increase rapidly, primarily lately, especially due to AI. the ability to automate huge chunks of the attack life cycle. And lastly, we're seeing new socially engineered attacks that bypass our traditional security controls. This isn't news to any of you listening. You guys are seeing this day in and day out. So the other aspect of this is that BEC, or business email compromise, unfortunately continues to work really well. If you want to look at the FBI's IC3 report that just released a couple of months ago, the data's out for last year. And thankfully, there is a bit of a dip in terms of losses. But this is just one flavor of social engineering attack that leverages email as its delivery mechanism, and it still works. We see that more than $2.7 billion was lost last year. On average, it's around $129,000, $130,000 lost per incident. That's the reason our financially motivated threat actors continue to use this, because it's effective. And bad news, we got good news coming. Don't give up on me yet. The bad news still is, though, the generative AI is making this worse. And when we unpack this, it's pretty easy to see. AI attacks are simply too easy to launch anymore. Here's an example that we used. I gave it an AI prompt of simply craft a vendor email that's requesting a bank account update using agency Acme Corporation, using an agency that Acme Corporation works with. That's all we gave it, right? We replaced the old details with mine. And here's the response that it gave us. I found vendors working with Acme Corporation. Here's an accounts payable email from Strategic Growth Marketing. Yes, that sounds legit, which invoices $120,000 each month. And as you can see on the screen here, we've got a very realistic looking, very professional looking email message here that says that, we've changed our bank account details. Please update your accounts payable information with this new information. And here's the thing. This happens. This is a normal business process. This happens all the time. So it also makes it really hard to stop. First of all, if we think about, how we've been recommending our users to be on the watch for phishing messages, we look for misspellings, and we look for malicious links or attachments. Those things simply aren't present here. In this case, we've got a sending address, Theo, or well, the from address is Jonathan Davis at sgmarketing.com. That sounds like it would be legitimate for strategic growth marketing. And so because that is not a known bad sender, IP or domain, it sails right through. Next, because they did go through the trouble of setting up SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, it doesn't flag as being an unknown sender here either. And so this sails right through. And lastly, as we just talked about, there's no indicators of a compromise or indicators of attack to analyze. There's no malicious link. There's no malicious attachment. It's just basically a block of text that's asking them to perform some sort of action. And because of that, it'll sail right through most of the security email gateway solutions that we have on the market today. So what's different then? Well, let's take a peek here. All right. So what's different in this case? Well, number one, if you're using an API-driven solution that connects in via API, it's using behavioral data science instead of traditional signature-based detection, then we can identify, an identity context mismatch. In this case, sgmarketing.com, we've never actually gotten an invoice from that particular domain before. So that's unusual on the surface. Maybe they changed domains, fine. But at least from the start, we know this is already a little bit unusual. Next, in terms of the AI analysis that we're digging into, we detect, a financial tone to the message. So we pick up some keywords that go, wait a second, this feels like I need to update my bank account, confirm it. There's even the idea of some measure of urgency tied to this. So we get an urgent sentiment. And lastly, we can auto-remediate this kind of attack without any engagement from our users or more importantly, from our security teams. And that's really the goal there. So let's take a look at a couple examples of real AI generated attacks that we here at Abnormal have been able to identify, detect, and stop before they reached users' inboxes. Just for some context, you're going to see, yes, it's a block of text, but what I want you to know is if it's in green, it's in the top 10 predicted words to be used next by AI. If it's in yellow, it's in the top 100. And if it's red, it's in the top 1,000. Any other color, AI just didn't predict that it would be used next. So the whole of that is to say, the more green that you see, the more realistic it is that this was created entirely by AI. So let's go take a look at a couple of attacks. So here's an example of a credential phishing attempt that we see here. This is a brand impersonation where we have a threat actor pretending to be from Meta for Business or Facebook, in other words. And as you can see by the overwhelming amount of green in here, this message was written definitely by AI and is trying to convince a user to log into a Facebook account or a Meta account and essentially lose those credentials. The bad guy is going to scrape those credentials and have that from there. Let me give you another example that we have here. This is a BEC or a payroll diversion. Sometimes we call them direct deposit fraud. In this case, we've got another note saying, I need to change my direct deposit to my new account. And again, overwhelmingly green here. And when we compare those results with OpenAI and GPT-0, all of them agree that this message was crafted entirely by AI. And so we can prove that this is what bad actors are out there doing today. So let's talk for a moment. I think there's value here in talking about the protection solutions that we've been bringing to bear for the last two dozen, to 2 decades. So for the last 2 decades, we've been bringing phishing awareness training to bear on the problem of phishing protection, and I think that's important, but it also has created some challenges of its own. We've also been using secure email gateways, good stuff, good technology. But again, with newer threats that we're seeing today, starts to fall down a little bit. And lastly, one of the big things that we've been doing for the last, 20 years has also been trying to send everything to the SIM, right? Additional correlation and logging. We'll see if we can identify anomalous activity that way. The problem is, as I mentioned, these solutions that we've been bringing to bear on the problem have challenges of their own. So you look at traditional phishing awareness training. It's always been a one size fits all. It's boring. It's dated. It's not relevant anymore. It's not very effective training. The other aspect is that the testing programs that we've been bringing to, remind our users these are the phishing tests that we give them. This has unfortunately taught them to report just tons and tons of information. Basically, especially if you have a punitive phishing program and where you essentially invite them to find a new job if they fail X number of times, by X minus one, we start to see them doing reporting everything as phishing. So the volumes skyrocket, which overwhelm the SOC. And that's been challenging as well. Not to mention that the automated analysis can be costly and complex, and it results in a really high false positive or worse, false negative rate. And that's at least from my own personal experience. What about those secure email gateways? Pardon me. These are really good. These are necessary. They're great. The idea behind these, the challenge is that they're very expensive. They're complex solutions. They're time consuming to implement and to manage. We with the care and feeding that goes with some of these, in terms of policy maintenance and management, is exceptionally high. It requires a particular skill set that you have to go out and hire for and then keep on staff. And then worst of all, you do all of that and it's still missing a lot of the kinds of attacks that we're seeing today, right? Socially engineered BEC, text only based attacks without links or attachments, link redirects, right? If a link bounces several times, it can miss that. Not to mention text and images or screenshots. I've seen that before as well. So The last idea in terms of solutions that we've been doing for years is additional correlation and logging. Let's just send everything to the SIM, right? The challenge is we're already consuming logs from our firewalls and IDS and IPS and EDR and DLP and SaaS, DAS, PAM, VMs. Look, the whole alphabet soup is here, and yet it doesn't necessarily make it better. More isn't necessarily better, right? SIMs are a great place to learn that. So that's what's, challenging here because additional logging can complicate and slow the correlation, not to mention the increased cost that goes with that. Many of our SIMs have, an ingestion model in terms of billing. And so the more you feed it, the more expensive it becomes. And you've got to really be careful and bring in high value log sources. And so that's challenging as well. So this is what it sometimes can feel like being a defender, right? You're on the front lines, you're all by yourself, everything's coming at you. But good news, all hope is not lost. There are better email protection solutions out there. These are the things that I think we should be looking forward to in terms of bringing to bear to solve these challenges going forward. First, phishing awareness training. Instead of traditional one size fits all training, we need to be looking for like an AI driven phishing coach that comes alongside your users and is explaining things to them about why this was dangerous, both in terms of the testing that we're doing, but also when they report something and it can come alongside and explain why this was either malicious or safe. I think that's important. We need to be looking for, instead of a traditional secure email gateway, I think we should be looking for inbound email security, cloud-based solutions that are SaaS-based that use an API for connectivity. I think this gives us a broader visibility than we've ever had before in terms of the email space, rather than only having visibility into that north-south traffic flow, right? Inbound, outbound. You can also see all of that east-west traffic when you connect that way. The last thing is in terms of that is that instead of training over weeks or months as a traditional seg has to do, you can also do a look back with an API. And so now you can train in minutes or hours rather than weeks or months. And so that's really important as well, particularly as we look at time to value. So many of these solutions, we have to explain to our leadership that this is going to take some time for us to really see all of the value that it can bring. And so that's challenging as well. And lastly, as opposed to additional logging and correlation, what I would rather see and what I think is out there really well today are things like account takeover analysis, things that can evaluate different signals and understand when an account may have been taken over, as well as an AI data analyst that you can give it natural language queries and it can go out and find information for you. Those things just aren't present in the legacy solutions that we've been using. So, implementing a cloud native AI driven solution. I have done this previously. I had a big challenge with user reported phishing at a previous company. It was one of those companies that had a punitive phishing program. If you failed 3 times, you were invited to find a new place to work. And well, technically, they took away your permissions, your elevated permissions. And if you couldn't do your job without them, well, then you needed to find a new place to work. And so we built this elaborate system that sandboxed files for us and ran them through things. We evaluated links and we followed them and we ran everything, but we weren't really doing anything different than what our seg was already doing. We were trying to save about 20 hours worth of work, and instead we missed the same social engineered attacks, impersonations, invoice fraud, these kinds of things that our seg was already missing. And so today, and even back then, I bought a solution called Abnormal, and it used machine learning and natural language processing to analyze the messages. And so it was able to look into and identify anomalous activity, even if the IOCs and IOAs that I was used to simply weren't present. So it didn't rely on traditional signature-based detection, but rather was doing behavior-based detection instead. If you want to think about We used to use optical character recognition, OCR. Well, now we have a much better solution out there, and that's AI driven. And so it's able to identify even anomalous activity in or words in images and those kinds of things. And so this has been incredibly beneficial and helpful in identifying anomalous activity. And the good news is it worked, right? I bought this, I implemented this, and the POC itself was set up in just minutes. In fact, it was under a minute. And I lost a bet on that, by the way. I'm still a little salty about that. Not that I'm going to bring it up. But you compare that with the SEG POC that took me weeks to stand up the infrastructure, let alone installing things, writing the policies, and building all of that out, allowing it time to learn. This was so much faster. It also immediately identified a social engineering attack that was slipping past my current SEG, and that saved us a lot of money and a lot of heartache, which was good to see. Um, you know, the other aspect is I could identify, go out and find phishing messages without having to write some obscure PowerShell scripting. Like if you've ever been in the administrative console for Microsoft 365, you might know what I'm talking about. Trying to hunt down a message in there is a bit of a bear. Lastly, right, we didn't have to babysit that phishing inbox any longer. The tool monitored that for us and would automatically classify and reply to every message that was sent in by my users. So investigations in all went from hours to minutes, and so we saved more than 20 hours a week. And here's what it looks like today. This is AI security mailbox. Now it classifies messages as spam, safe, or malicious, and then will automatically reply to the users that report them and let them know here are the very specific things in your message that we knew made this safe or malicious. And so that made it a whole lot better going forward in terms of communicating and interacting with my user base. They felt so much more heard and listened to because they were getting responses in moments rather than in a couple of weeks when we finally had time, or a couple of hours even. If we were really on top of that queue, it still would be hours. So that's really powerful. Folks, I thank you so much for your time today. I hope you're enjoying the conference, and look forward to speaking with you again here soon in another session. Thank you all very much.